Okay, now I've been hosting today, but now it's my esteemed pleasure to actually moderate a panel. We're going to have a very quick Socratic discussion that's near and dear to my heart. The title of this panel is Social Media, So What? And I'm going to tell you the story that made me want to do this panel. I am busy watching the Olympics a couple weeks ago, like all of you, and there was an amazing amount of silliness. Pundits everywhere saying, look how much Twitter has impacted the way people are watching TV. Look at NBC's ratings. They're through the roof. It's unbelievable. There's something about social media that's just so special. It's awesome. And so I was thinking about this and sort of not really believing what I was hearing. And a lot of people use this opportunity to act really smart about something that none of us are really smart about. No matter what we think we know, it's way too early for us to understand what's happening. So here's a hypothetical that's not hypothetical. Who remembers Allie Reisman? Raise your hand. Allie Reisman, the gymnast on the girls' gym team that did such a great job. Who remembers her mom and dad? Yeah, every single person remembers her. Why? Because when Allie was doing her thing on the uneven parallel bars, Mom is in the seats doing this craziness with her, and the director could not resist, and the producer could not resist. And so we had pictures of Allie Reisman doing her exercises, and we had pictures of Mom doing the exercises in the stands watching. If you were monitoring Twitter and Facebook and Facebookistan and the tweetosphere while this was going on, if you had your TweetDeck open or Hootsuite or Bottlenose or whatever you use to watch the Twittersphere happen, you would have noticed that Twitter mass and Twitter velocity spiked while Allie Reisman's mom was doing her thing, and a lot of chatter. So the question I asked was, I tweet, therefore I watch, therefore I tweet. And the big question is, what's accretive to the advertiser? I'm in the broadcast television business. The broadcast television business is not the premium cable business. It's not the subscription cable business. And for the most part, is yet to be a dual revenue stream business. It's an advertiser-supported television business where the big money's made on TV. And so the question was begged for. When Twitter mass and Twitter velocity increase while Allie Reisman's mom's doing the craziness, who wins? We've got the producer who produced a pre-taped show, can't do anything about it now. It's nice to know what happened, but really not accretive to me. Is the first advertiser in the block or the second advertiser in the block, are they somehow impacted? Is there a better experience for that advertiser? Is more money being made? Is the value being translated into wealth, to bring our theme in from this morning? And the question to all those, the answer to all those questions is I have no clue, but they don't seem causal. They're correlated for sure. I tweet, therefore I watch, therefore I tweet. It's correlated. But what's causal? Which made me think, Social Olympics? Nope, just social and Olympic. Now, I am completely sure you can use Twitter to overthrow a government. It's awesome. What I don't know is if you can use Twitter to sell toothpaste. Today, we're going to have that discussion, and here's the way it's going to go. Socratic discussions in the Shelly Palmer world I don't always take my own personal opinion into consideration. I'm here for your entertainment and enjoyment. So if all these guys are agreeing with one another, I'm going to be an instigator of devilishness. On the other hand, I might be talking for myself. You will be the judge. The way we're going to do this is each panelist is going to self-introduce for 60 seconds or less, and then we are going to just start this Socratic discussion, which is not going to be Q&A. It's going to be a discussion amongst all of us. And the topic, of course, is social media. So what? Lisa, why don't you introduce yourself?
Wow, after that. I am Lisa Shalett. I work at Goldman Sachs, where I am the head of brand marketing and digital strategy. That includes social media.
I'm Jack Haber. I'm with Colgate. I've been with Colgate for 31 years. I'm responsible for all advertising globally, including all digital media.
I'm Dave Poltrack. I'm the Chief Research Officer of CBS and the President of CBS Vision, which is our research operation, which is designed to measure all things future.
And I'm Marc Speichert. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at L'Oreal USA.
Now, sadly, we couldn't get anybody good for this panel, so we're just going to fake it, if that's okay. Social media is really interesting, but it's useless. Discuss.
That was a good question.
I'm just guys, talk to me about, am I crazy? Is there a there, and what's happening? Not is there value, but do you care? Do I care?
Of course we care. So in as much as nobody else jumped in, I'll start. I think, to me, it's social media is big, it's great, it's fabulous, it's terrific. It comes down to the specifics, and for me, it's about relevance. So social media is about people connecting with each other. As a brand marketer, our mission is to connect and engage with consumers. So now if people are engaging with each other, right, where is the opportunity for us? And I think we're really at the beginning of trying to answer that.
I think that I think essentially the whole marketing business is all about social media. I mean, it's just person-to-person, face-to-face conversations that took place outside of our point of visibility. The idea is people see ads, they hear about products, they talk about products amongst themselves, they socialize the process, and eventually that's how things go viral and get bought, and we have a successful product. So what has happened is it's always been a very powerful part of marketing, but it's been invisible to us. Now, some of that conversation, some of that social is gone on to the internet, and it's now in a place where it's visible to us. And we're totally fascinated by that. For the first time, we can actually see it. The big question is, what's visible to us is 5% of the total day-to-day conversation about brands and services in this country. 5%.
How do you get to that number?
Well, this is based on research. There's a company called Keller-Fay that does syndicated research where they actually have people keep diaries of their conversations. And on a day-to-day basis, they gather conversational material, and people say all the conversations they've had and what products and services were discussed within the context of those conversations. And that measure, basically, 8% of the conversations that they had, that they report, are online. 92% are face-to-face. So the question is the 8% that we can now see representative of the 92% that's going on? And that's what we're wrestling with right now. Because if it isn't, then maybe it is irrelevant and not or even worse, can send us off in the wrong direction. But if it is, then we have the ability now to see something that's very, very critical to all of our marketing efforts.
You know, I think very often people put social media in a box, right? And I think to your question, you could say like, maybe some parts of social media are useless, but some others aren't. And I think the way we look at it is, if you think about a path to purchase, the way we're approaching it, you know, you have 4 key steps. You have an awareness step, you have an evaluation step, you have a buy phase, and then you have an advocacy phase. And for me, social media is embedded in all 4 areas, right? You can buy media on a social platform, you can drive evaluation, you can show how-to videos on a Facebook page, which is evaluation, consumers getting more educated around a specific topic or area. You can sell product on a social media platform, and obviously you can engage in a dialogue, you know, through advocacy. And so, you know, right now I feel like I have more answers on some areas than in others in regards to what works and what doesn't. And but I think it's important to have that holistic view. And again, not putting social media in a box that's very limitative to, you know, social media is about a Twitter feed or, you know, 2 people talking on a Facebook page.
For us, particularly from a B2B perspective, where we're not necessarily going for a specific consumer transaction, social media is critically important and a very valuable way of understanding what the conversation is, where that conversation is happening, and for us, importantly, how to participate in a conversation that we might not naturally have the opportunity to, not having retail-oriented consumers to deal with. And so for us, it is a tremendous way to be human, to contribute content where it's relevant, and to explain who we are, what we do, And why it matters, because often we don't have tangible ways to demonstrate that in the form of products and such. And so I very much ascribe to how Linda Boff this morning described GE and how they're looking at social media, and we look up to them and what they're doing very much. And I think that there are lots of ways for brands to express themselves as long as it is authentic and relevant, and this is the medium in which to do it.
Authenticity and relevance. Two words we use a lot with social media, but then we heard the athletes tell us that they can't control their message. I'm selling now, not only do people have no respect for my media distribution channels, more and more they're losing respect for my physical distribution channels. Is social impact that in any way, guys? Oh, really?
I don't understand the question.
Oh, it's not really directed at you.
Okay.
It was directed at the consumer packaged goods and beauty guys on the panel. So what I'm really asking you is that I now am taking control as a consumer in a way I've never taken control before. And part of social really, and Marc said it best just now, social's not really about Twitter and it's not really about Facebook. It's about empowered consumers who have communication skills and tools they've never had before. And David pointed out that visibility to about 5 to 8% of those people are telling us something. We don't know if it's the rest of it. We also know that as consumers become more empowered, they change their behaviors about how they buy and what channels they buy through. And my question to you is, are you feeling that right now? And if so, does it matter? And if it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. I mean, silence is an okay answer too. I'm just wondering.
You know, for me, it's fascinating because we get 500,000 calls a year to a consumer affairs call, right? So people picking up the phone and asking questions about our products or, you know, complaining or praising our products. Well, we get 250,000 posts a day online, you know, through social media. And so it's huge, right? And of course, there's a lot of stuff that we need to filter through because a lot of that volume is not necessarily actionable, but there's a lot of actionable content as well. So I guess to answer your question is, for me, it's you need to act on that volume and that conversation that is happening. And if you're acting on it properly, I think it could be very powerful.
So I want to respond to what you say about the consumer being empowered. And some people take that to mean the consumer is in control, and then the next layer they get is to, so you're not. And I say, no, the consumer is empowered to make the choices they're making, but you or we as the marketers need to still be in control of our messaging and our engagement with consumers. So with social media, yes, they're in control of the choices they make in media, but we're still in control of how we engage with people, right? So, but we have a harder job to do. We have more to understand. We have more to think about. We have more to analyze. We have more ways, more places to engage, and we have to refine our messages to a much better degree than ever before. So I would say consumers are empowered, and so are we.
So not having, go ahead, Marc, sure.
No, but I think what's powerful if, you know, we know the power that user reviews have, particularly in our industry, right? I mean, a majority of people are, you know, not necessarily showrooming to compare price, at least in our categories. What they're doing is they're looking at product reviews when it's in the stores, right? So that's social media as well. And if you're able to actually take some of that content and infuse it into some of your ads as well. So we've done that not necessarily on TV, but online specifically, where we're embedding some of that, you know, user reviews, you know, social dialogue on the brands into some of our display advertising, and we've seen it's very kind of powerful in a way because not only it's the message from the advertiser, but it's linked with what the consumer actually thinks about the product, and it has to be, you know, nicely linked, obviously, but.
So we're in a bit of a free-for-all environment right now. No one's put a lot of restrictions on us. Occasionally when Facebook changes a privacy setting, it ends up on the front page of every newspaper, the front above the scroll in every blog. People go crazy when Mark Zuckerberg pretty much changes his underwear. But that was funny. If you guys aren't going to laugh at my stuff, I will just sit up here and amuse myself. This is terrifying. You're not really paying attention. You're really starting to bug me now. So here's the thing. We've gotten a real walk on privacy so far. I mean, it's just open season on privacy. And from a B2B standpoint, you have to be astoundingly careful about that. From a B2C standpoint, nutty. Really, it has to be even more important to you. And then, David, I don't even know where research ends up with. How do you guys research if no one wants to be researched?
Well, people do want to be researched. I mean, we're not worried about that. I think what we're really, people understand that good research is a way for them to tell the people who are trying to serve them products and services what they want. So people are comfortable with research. They're uncomfortable with people who try to market things through them through the guise of research. And that's what we're dealing with, is the people who, the telemarketers who call you saying they're doing a survey when they're actually selling you insurance. So there's a lot of...
No one would ever do that.
Oh, yes.
Well, maybe.
So essentially, the issue is that what we want is an open exchange where people are willing to share information about themselves in order to inform the people who are trying to serve them.
There's a third kind of badness happening there too, right? Which is people who are getting researched without knowing they're being researched. Which
Absolutely.
is really the privacy issue, right? When I'm watching you because I can measure everything. I don't think people care for that very much.
I think privacy is critically important. It's going to get more important over time. We would consider the starting point for the conversation to be the consumer. So let's say you're on television, you're putting a commercial on television. I think you have to treat the consumer with respect. And the starting point is thinking that you're an invited guest in that consumer's home. So extend that to all the other channels of media that we have. Extend that to online browsing and the consumer's right to be monitored or not, but to make that choice and to understand what's going on. The thing, I think most people don't really understand it now. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what they're being tracked for or not. But I think the starting point has to be respect for the consumer. And as marketers, that's the first thing we need to watch out for.
Easy to say, hard to do. Customer service and social media, completely other zone. How are you guys actually dealing with the volumes of data? We'll talk about big data later this afternoon, but this is a big data problem. It's an explosive data problem. Mark, what did you just say? You get 500,000 phone calls a year, but 250,000 posts a day?
Right. So a lot of the conversation was for us to first understand what that daily volume was before we made decisions in terms of resourcing against handling the the issue or the opportunity. And so once we got to the 250, we were like, okay, we have to find some kind of solution because I can't put human resources against sifting through all that information, because that would have to have 20 people kind of analyzing all this information. And so what we've done is we selected tools. One is the scraping tool that gets me the unstructured data, and then I have another filtering tool that gets me to the structured data. And then once you do that, you're realizing actually that out of the 250,000 posts that you have a day, actually we only have 900 that are actually actionable posts. I mean, it's still a very big number, but those are the ones that we act on.
What makes it an actionable post in your world? What's the differentiation?
Well, for example, if I have someone that has been using one of our products and is not satisfied with the usage of the product, I now have the ability to, through an engagement console, contact that consumer. And to your earlier point on privacy, the consumer might say, I don't want you to help me out, but in most cases, actually, they do, because I'm like, you've used this product, you're not satisfied, how can I help you get satisfied, right? So that's an example of where we are engaging with the consumer and acting, and for me, it's like the consumer affairs 2.0, because I think that's where the volume of the conversation is going versus the traditional phones, which is what we've been doing for many years.
Jack, same thing with you?
On the data thing, I think it's important to remember, there are three pieces to it. One is to be able to collect all the data, and there's so much coming in, so what do you do with it? And then the second is to be able to understand it. But the most important, and where you really have to get, is to be able to use it. You said actionable. That's a lot of people get so worried about getting the data, putting it somewhere, analyzing it, and it's like, what am I going to do with it? Yeah. And that's it's incredibly difficult because this is getting more and more complicated, especially when you're talking about selling millions of products every day to millions of people and trying to digest that and come up with answers.
I was just going to say, although we don't necessarily have a customer service element, what has been absolutely amazing to us is the fact that sometimes we get talked about as much as companies that are seeking to actually communicate in a consumer brand-oriented way. And I think that was a real eye-opener for us. We obviously need to pay attention to that. We care very much about it. And I think that it has enabled us to think about ways where we can be more transparent, where we can commit to communicating and where we can share information and stories on things that people care about. Understanding what the topics are that resonate most help us determine how we can be most relevant to those.
You know, I think consumers are getting hip to the fact that if they talk about you, they're going to get more action from you than if they call you. I don't mean you specifically, but everybody knows if I want to tweet about X airline, I'm going to get more action than if I call the 800 number and get put on hold.
Is that because it's so expensive to have a call center and they're reading from a scoop and it's an old style, terrifyingly restricted way, whereas all the social media people are just looking for something to do? I mean, what do you think the reason for that is?
I think people just figured it out that this is how I, make it public. It's, you can blast out a message.
Anybody see The Good Wife this
people.
past Sunday night? And the kid gets arrested, or it was 2 Sunday nights ago. The kid gets arrested, or in a car stop, and he makes a YouTube video, and they make a big thing about it. He gets 500,000 views, and the poor state trooper is just publicly embarrassed, and they have to let the kid go. Oh, if the real world actually worked that way. Doesn't quite. But, David, I'm going to go back to this thing you said a minute ago, and it's the first time I'm hearing this stat, and it reminds me of a stat that I heard a while back when TiVo started doing their, we're going to beat up Nielsen. We're going to beat Nielsen at their own game. We're going to use TiVo second-by-second data because we know what people are watching exactly. And they did this amazing presentation, analytic presentation about the way people who have TiVos watch television, and it was pretty different from what Nielsen ratings looked like. And then the media buyers turned around and said, well, yeah, but all this describes is TiVo watchers. It doesn't describe America. These are just people with TiVo boxes. They're early adopters. They spend a couple $100 on a box. They went down the profile of a TiVo watcher. And so now I'm asking you, you're saying 5 to 8% of the Twitter may not represent the other 95, 94, 90, whatever percent it's going to be. That's a little scary. Is there, I mean, intuitively they should represent the rest, but what are the circumstances by which the 5% of the people whose conversations we get to look at really wouldn't represent the other 95%? Like, what's the basis for that? Is there something that you've seen that makes you go, this 5% is pretty isolated and the rest of this is just not there?
Well, I mean, you talk about big data. One of the benefits of big data is now we have a lot more information. CBS, we just completed a massive survey and a segmentation of the population by all their media habits. And we divided it into 6 segments. And media trendsetters, 2 of the segments are media trendsetters and streamers. Media trendsetters about 21% of the population. Streamers are about 15% of the population. Those 2 segments together constitute almost all of the Twitter activity. They constitute almost all of the social aspect of our medium right now. So you look at media trendsetters, and they are urban, younger, ethnically diverse, not young. 35 to 44 is really the concentration, but they're the adopters of new technology. They're the adopters. They're the innovators, and we've found out they're the social diffusers. They're the people who are communicating about. And we found out they're the people who talk about television programs, they're the people who talk about movies, they're the people who talk about entertainment products. We then, just recently with this Keller-Fay, we actually did a massive survey and found that media trendsetters are twice as likely to have conversations about automobiles and automobile brands, about cosmetics, about all different types of brands and services.
Say toothpaste and financial services too, please.
I was waiting for
No, I just want to hear about the toothpaste and the financial services.
financial
That's all I was looking for.
And so we now have established that this is a very important, it's 21% of the population. It's a very, very important segment of the population to us and to our advertisers. So they're the ones that are doing this. They're the ones that are investing in social media. They're the ones that we want to embrace. So essentially, they're not representative of the total population, but they are drivers.
So is this the electoral college of social media that you found, basically?
They are the power the power brokers. Yes, the personal power brokers.
So let me see if I get this straight.
They're the Ohio.
That's it. This is the Ohio. We have found the Ohio of social media. So now everyone can leave this conference with an action item, I think, from the CBS research, that if I can figure out a way to get to this 21% of the population, pretty much I'm done, and I can forget about everyone else? Because I just need to win Ohio to win, right?
Well, if you get the viral aspect of these 21%, if they become your advocates, if they embrace your product, therefore it's going to spread throughout the industry.
Okay. No, that's great. So Jack just asked the question without the microphone. I'm going to repeat it. So that's Ohio. What's Florida?
Florida's the TV companions.
Okay.
But essentially, what you know is that the conversations that are going on, and we've done the research on this now, the conversations that are going on are similar among all the general parts of the population, but the level of the conversations, the viral nature of the conversations are greatest among people who have become established advocates.
Right. No, that I understand.
Are the other people all listening to them, just watching, or are they participating at a low level, or how does that work?
They're participating pretty much across the board. It depends on the product and the service and how well the viral aspect works. But essentially, they are these people just are out there. They're passionate about the products and services they're involved with. They're talking about them. Other people are deferring to these people in a large degree as being the experts, and they become identified as experts, and therefore they become more important than just 21%.
Mark, do you see that in the beauty business? I mean, is that sort of your experience?
Well, for me, the big conversation we're having with a lot of our, TV partners is, because everybody's talking about the second screen and the importance of the second screen and how that's complementary and how a lot of that interactivity might happen most on the second screen versus the screen itself, right? But what I'm still questioning, and I haven't seen a lot of data on, is what is happening on that second screen and how much is that correlated or linked back with what is on the actual screen? Because for me, that's when, to your point in terms of the impact of social media on ratings and the importance of the two and how one influences the other, for me this is still kind of a big question mark, or where we have some insights around, but personally when I use my personal experience, I'm still doing different things when I'm on a certain screen versus when but not that I'm representative of the beauty consumer necessarily, right? But so that's the question that I have.
Right now, about 40% of the people who watch primetime television on a given night are simultaneously connected to the internet through either a smartphone, a tablet, or some device. That, to me, is a major game changer going forward, because what that means is that television and television advertising is on the verge of becoming interactive and transactional, because I can sync up those two devices. And we have every day another entrepreneur, Shazam, you're all familiar with what Shazam does, but every day another entrepreneur is coming in who basically has a new way for that device to sync up with what's on the television screen. So our advertisers can send coupons, our advertisers can send people to websites, and the two screens actually
And so we
together.
see the age-old rub. There's Mark shaking his head going, I'm not going to do that. So, and there's Jack going, can I do that? So, guys, we have 2 minutes and 59 seconds left. Why are you shaking your head real quick?
Well, we've met with a lot of very interesting companies. We met with a company called Miso, for example, that does exactly what you're describing, which was very kind of intriguing to us, and we're actually doing some experimentation with them. But again, if I use my own example, I watched this show the other day, which was about the Thiel project, the top 20 under 20, and this whole idea of recognizing young kids that have a great project and giving them a sponsorship instead of going on college. And I thought it was fascinating by the show. And then I started to tweet and Facebook about it, but then I totally stopped watching the show because I was engaged in my conversation. So, what I'm saying? So I got more engaged in the content, but I didn't necessarily engage with the main screen anymore. I was on my own personal screen. So, you know what I'm saying? So,
Well, that's, yeah.
So if I'm an advertiser, and what does that drive in terms of choices, in terms of where I put my media, right? Do I?
Yeah, I'm not sure it means TV becomes more interactive, because I think what's happening is with everybody with phones or with tablets in their hands while they're watching TV, I'm engaging with the TV at some level. I'm engaging with my friends or with other things at the same time. And I've got a different thing going on, because I think you call it the second screen. To me, this is an intimate thing that's very close to me. And I have a different thing going on with my intimate little device here that I don't let anybody touch ever, right? Versus the screen that's across the room that's public or that I'm relating to in a different way. So I think you have simultaneous engagements, and that's the challenge we have to deal with.
Well, but just to give you one device, so one of these services basically is a service that literally, it downloads coupons into an app that basically classifies the coupons, coordinates them with your shopping list on your iPad or on whatever, on your phone, and it's all done passively. There's no involvement of the actual person at all.
Got it. Okay, well, we are running a little bit out of time here, and I want to, since I've been the time Gestapo, I'm going to do it on myself as well. I need a last word from each of you, completely unrelated to anything, and I'm going to just point to you and ask a question that you don't have one-word or two-word answers. Favorite app? Just any one. One you like.
Path.
Okay, Path. David, first website you visit every morning. Not ShellyPalmer.com, not NBC, not CBS, not... What do you...
Deadline.com.
Deadline, good. Jack?
Lightning round, huh?
Favorite app?
Favorite app?
Yeah.
Mail.
That's my least favorite app. Lisa, favorite website?
I go to Hootsuite.com.
Wow.
That counts as both.
Wow, that certainly does answer both. It's an app. Guys, let's give it up for this panel. It's been extraordinary. Thank you all so much. I think what's important here, guys, is that this is a conversation that's now starting. This conversation never ends. If you stop asking social media, so what? You're going to find yourself on the wrong side of history. Social media means something. I would love to know what it is. Yes, it's valuable. Yes, it's important. Yes, it's life-changing. I just want to figure out how. Let's give it up for these guys. Thank you so very, very much.